Hi, and welcome back to That's a Wrap podcast with your host, Naja.
Siani.
Julian.
Jalen.
This week, we'll be discussing a film called Parasite, a comedy thriller film based in South Korea. Throughout the course of the movie, several aspects of the film help us to further recognize the class differences between the families and how they affect their character development. First, we're going to take a look at the actors and casting and how they made the characters come to life. Siani?
Yes, so we have South Korean actor Song Kang-ho as Kim Ki-tak, which is Mr. Kim in the movie. He's the father he's the father of the Kim family who's hired as Park's chauffeur. And he's previously worked on movies with the director, with movies such as Memories of Murder, Snowpiercer, and The Host, which means that they have a good rapport. And I feel like that's why he had good chemistry with not only the director to bring his character to life, but also the other cast members. He's also, as I said before, he's seen the whole Snowpiercer, but also The Attorney, and he's an award winner as well. He won the Blue Dragon Film Award for Best Leading Actor. Next, we have Park Seo-joon. Sorry if I mispronounced these. He plays Min, which is the friend of Ki-woo, and which is Kevin. That's the person in English. His name is Kevin. But basically, Min is the person who offers the tutoring job because he's going to study abroad. So he's like giving up that tutoring job. So he's who introduces Kevin to that. He's also known for its films and movies such as Heal Me and Fight for My Way. Next, we have Kim Ki-woo or Kevin, and he's the son of the family who was hired as the English tutor. He's the one where he's intelligent, but he doesn't feel like he's fit for the position. His sister helps to create the resume, so you can see that dynamic. And he feels as though he's intelligent. He's reminded of this by men, but he feels like he doesn't have the rigor to even succeed in these examinations, let alone teach them. So next we have Lee Sung-kyun as Park or Nathan. He's the father of the Park family, and he's also seen in movies such as My Mister and Listen to Love. Next, we have Cho Yi-jung as Choi or Madam, the mother of the Park family. She's also seen in The Servant and The Concubine. We also have Park So-dam as Jessica or Kim Ki-jung, the daughter of the Kim family, who is also hired as the art therapist. This is the sister I was talking about who ends up making the makeshift resume and they end up both getting positions at the same family's home. And she's seen in A Record of the Youth and Beautiful Mind. Next, we have Lee Jong-un as Guk Mong-gwang, and that's the housekeeper for the Park family, who's also worked for the architect and the previous owner of the house. She had a relationship with the architect, and part of her story that happens like in the sequence of the film, and it's explored and in my research, there's a spin-off television series of this, and that's explored more in there. She's also found in Hell and Other People in Law School. And next we have Jang Hee-jin as Chung-suk, the mother of the Kim family who was hired as a housekeeper for the Park family. She's found in More Than Family and Birth Care Center. And Park Myung-hoon as Oh Jun-se. That's Mong Gwang's husband, and she's also seen in On the Line and Ash Flower. Next, you have Jung Ji-soo as Park Di-hai, the daughter of the Park family, and she's found in Imitation and Doom at Your Service. Jung Hee-jun as Park De-song is the son of the Park family, and he's found in Mine and Special Cargo. Park Ki-rook as Yoon, Park Dong, his chauffeur. And he's also found in Our Love Story and One Night Only. And lastly, we have Park Si-joon as Min. We already spoke about Min, which is Kevin's friend who introduces him to this. And the casting for this, it's hard to actually like have an opinion on that, being as though I'm not familiar with South Korean films. But what I can say during my research is just noticing that a lot of these actors and actresses played in other movies together, which is why they may have had a better chemistry or they had a rapport already, which made it seem seamless during the film and made it more easily for them to have that type of chemistry on screen and really bring the whole image to life.
Thank you for that, Siani. Now we can't truly analyze a film without taking a careful look at the script. What did you think, Julian?
First thing first, I thought it was beautifully written. It's kind of hard, like Siani touched on. One of the things is that it is a Korean movie, so everything is written in Korean, and unless you watch it with dub or you watch it with subscript, as an American, we would not understand unless you speak Korean. And I do not, so did not comprehend it when it came in that sense. But having the subtitles, there can be somewhat of a disconnect sometimes because not every language always transfers smoothly. So I feel like this is definitely a film that you do have to watch twice to fully grasp it. That's on just the script wise, but that's also when it comes to the setting and just the overall meaning of the movie. I feel like it's something that you do have to watch twice. But it just being a Korean movie, like I said, some of the translation was not as accurate. So I felt like this was my first time watching the movie. So I felt like for the majority of the movie, I was reading and I was also trying to put two and two together. But besides the disconnect when it comes to languages, you still get an overall understanding of the theme and of the script. And I feel like when it came to this script, it was, like I said, it was beautifully written. And one of the things that touched on me is I know this is a Academy Award winning movie. And sometimes coming from that perspective, when you look at higher up, like who is actually rating these movies, it's usually white men. It's usually higher up white men. So sometimes when films are given that much love and awards, sometimes you actually question if it's actually a good film. And clearly everything is subjective and biased, but sometimes I do question, like, I saw that movie, I did not think it deserved an award, but I can actually agree with this one. I felt like this was a really good movie, and every question you had, it answers. Like everything came full circle. There was throughout the movie, I was questioning, like, was this symbolism or was this does this make sense or just question marks, and I felt like it all came full circle. But when it came to the script, I felt like it was very, very detailed. Like I said, it's something that you have to watch twice, but just very detailed. Even one of the scenes that really caught my attention, this is getting a little bit to the actual like script and what the movie was actually talking about. But when it came to, they were trying to get everybody within their family getting a job in their family because they knew that they were well off and they struggled. They basically lived in a basement. They lived in a sewer system basically, and they were poor. So they were trying to find a way to get money. And they knew that this family was well off and they knew they were very close knit and that the only way that they could get in is by finessing the system because they knew that they did not allow a lot of people close within their vicinity. So the son and the daughter was basically the minds to the madness. They were controlling everything. And one of the scenes that were really beautiful to me is that it got to the point that it was like they were acting inside of a movie. Like they had a whole script and everything, and they knew how they were going to respond because they were around the family so much that they knew their tendencies on how they were going to pick up and how they were going to respond to certain things. So I felt like that was interesting to the script and how he was reading a whole script and he's like, this is your part and this is how they're going to respond and how much emotion they should put into the actual fake part of the whole doing of trying to get within the family. I thought that was pretty cool and I thought that was pretty creative. But just throughout, like I said, any question that you did have, I felt like they answered it within the script, and it's a thriller. It was known as a thriller, and I was actually kind of confused about that because I was waiting for the part to become a thriller. Then you kind of understood once it got later in the movie. But I thought all in all that it was well written, everything came together, and I thought it was pretty cool. Oh, and one part I actually do want to mention as well was the what is it? It's like the signaling that they were doing with the light. I thought that was very interesting, and how it all came full circle at the end when the dad was, he ran away, or people thought that he ran away, but really he was in the basement that was there from the house that nobody knew. And how that light, they thought the whole time that it was a motion sensor, but really it had to do with a a language of a language barrier, I guess you could say, and how the son ended up catching on to that. And then at the end, they made it seem like they had became one big family, but it was all hypothetical. It was all in his mind. Like, hopefully when I do get this money, I can buy this house and we can be all one family again. But I thought it was very creative. I thought the movie was very creative. And honestly, I wish it was American so that I could watch it in the regular in my language, I guess you could say. But that's all.
Exactly. So now let's dive deeper into the settings and wardrobes and how those impacted the film. So in terms of the setting, the production design was done by a few people, including Lee Ha-jung, Yang Jun-mo, and Bong Joon-ho. Sorry if I mispronounced those. But overall, the production design team made an extra effort to differentiate the houses between the rich Park family house and the poor Kim family house. So both of the houses were constructed on set. The Park family house definitely represented wealth. The house was spacious, it had high ceilings, large doorways, and it was surrounded by bright green grass and plants. The house also had large windows, indicating that the house was probably separated from other people's houses, and there wasn't much of a need for privacy. And this completely contrasts the Kim family's house, which was underground. The house was extremely cluttered and crammed. Even in the bathroom, the toilet was seated higher than the rest of the floor in the home. And there were fewer, smaller windows, and it was even difficult to access Wi-Fi. So although this setting was built on set, there were many realistic aspects taken from lesser fortunate towns in South Korea. Another important setting in the movie was the tunnel basement behind the bookshelf. And this is where Moon Gwang, or the initial housekeeper's husband, was living in order to hide because he was in so much debt. And the tunnel was dark gray and had low lighting, which gave the basement an eerie feel, so much so that the viewer could expect that something scary or dangerous would happen there, which ended up happening when Moon Gwang and her husband were both fighting for their lives while the Kim family attacked them. And then Moon Gwang ended up dying there. In terms of the costumes, there were different aspects over the Kim family. Throughout the movie, they wore more dull colors. Often they were wearing colors such as gray, black, and dark blue, and they were also wearing like looser fitting clothing. Even Mr. Kim would wear clothing that was more wrinkled. Even when he would dress up, since he became the Park family's new driver, his suit jacket and shirt in multiple scenes were wrinkled. And then towards the end of the movie, Mr. Kim and his son both wore blue plaid, along with many other the less fortunate families after their houses became flooded, and when they were displaced from their homes. And with them piled up in that large space, it drew attention to the reality of the lower class families. And with the Park family, a lot of times the mom or the wife, she wore lighter colors like white and pink, and even more satin. She also wore like two-piece matching outfits, which further represented her status. Even the pajamas that they wore, like her husband, and the daughter, they both wore matching sets for their pajamas. And the only person that really dressed slightly differently was the son, Da Sung, which seemed purposeful to represent that he acted differently from the rest of the family, to the point where the mother even believed that he was dealing with mental health issues, which was falsely diagnosed by Jessica, which is the daughter in the poor family. In reality, he was more insightful about the issues in the house, such as the Kim family smelling similarly, and then people living in the tunnel basement. And the only time in the movie where both the Kim family and the Park family were dressed similarly was in the toward the last scene, where the fathers from both families were dressed like Native American people for Da Song's birthday party. And I believe this was done to indicate like there was going to be a change in the movie, like a climactic scene, which followed, which ended up with the killings. So of course, every film incorporates some type of music to spice it up and add effects. So tell us more about what you thought, Jalen.
Among all of the other elements that make watching Parasite such an experience, the musical makeup is noteworthy as well. The Parasite soundtrack consists mostly of the original music composed by the Korean film composer Young Jae-il, I believe is how you say his name, and he scored the movie. We've been discussing in class recently how the use of music can convey emotion past the threshold of written or spoken communication. And being that this movie made an impact across the world, breaking all barriers, I would say that the composition of the music attests to this. The scoring of this film has been described as minimal with heavy presence of piano. This is important to note because the associations that come with piano as a musical art form, like Handel, a famous pioneer of the Baroque period, is also featured in the film. The thing about using classical music to score a film is that it offers a feeling of familiarity as well as formality. Piano has the potential to move an audience and set a tone with an elaborate combination of keystrokes. Jael fundamentally understood this, and he worked to accompany the film with the proper background music. The entire film feels sleek and it has a polished presentation. The soundtrack itself has some interesting composition titles. Some of my favorites are On the Way to the Rich House, The Hell Gate, The Family is Busy, which is followed immediately by Busy to Survive, The Frontal Lobe of Ki Taek, and most importantly and popularly, Soju One Glass. Aside from music being present in the background of the film, it shows up in another major way. One scene in particular has been coined the Jessica jingle, where character Kim Ki-young recites the information she needs to remember her fake role as she's introduced to the Park family. So that's the part of the movie where she's standing at the doorbell with her brother and she is going like this, counting like all the things that she needs to remember before she goes to meet the Park family and pretend to be their art therapist. But basically, the use of music in this film was extraordinary and it really tied everything together.
Thank you for your thoughts. Now we know the film has to come together through the editing and the camera work. How did you think it was done in this film, Kenny?
Just to echo what everybody else said, really great film. The director was Bong Joon-ho, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, and the lead editor was Yang Jin-mo. And if you've seen any of the previous works that they worked on together, they're very big on like rhythm and pacing in their films. Like they kind of like create like a heartbeat type rhythm, like it's just a gradual, just steady, like you can tell something's coming, like it's a way that they're able to, create tension and build towards a climax all throughout the film. And one of the first things I want to highlight about the camera angle usage in this movie was the use of slow progressive zoom in all throughout it to facilitate the plot. Like when you're watching it, it's harder to tell, but I watched a video where it compares it with like the sped up version of it. And in a lot of the films, like when characters are like getting closer to the truth or like forming relationships or getting closer to their scheme, like getting further in their plans, like there's a slow progressive shot that like slowly goes in and focuses on what the characters are doing. And like I said, as a whole, you might not really notice it, but when you look at all these separate scenes together and how they slowly progress in, you can tell like, okay, the characters are starting to form these relationships, like and get what they're trying to get done. And another common shot that was in this movie was the duo shot. You would see a lot of times where it would just be two characters. A lot of times it would be either two members of the Kim family or two members of the Park family. And you would see like the differences between the two, but oftentimes it would be one member of the Park family, one member of the Kim family, and that would show like how they're slowly infiltrating, not becoming one of them, but starting to, look like them, do the things, mimic them, really integrate themselves into the family. And another fun fact that I found was that the average film has about 1,200 shots in it, but in this film, Bong Joon-ho decides to only use 960 shots, and even though it's less than a standard film, the pacing of it is still very quick. Like he doesn't use shots unnecessarily. He just uses the ones that are essential to convey whatever he's trying to do in like the shortest amount of time possible. And with that, he uses a lot of like continuous shots, incorporating wide, close-up, and medium angles. That way, they're not separate shots. It's just one fluid scene. and by creating like dynamic motion, having characters move. Like, for instance, there's one scene where they're in the kitchen having a conversation, and the focus shifts with the husband as he walks over to the fridge because it's focused on what he's saying. And then in another scene, you see how somebody's tucked around the corner in the kitchen listening that you didn't originally see in the first shot, but he slowly pans over. And since he used continuous shots instead of separate ones, it really makes you feel like you're privy to something that that some of the characters don't know because you're getting this little glimpse that they don't have. And at the end of the movie, a scene that some of you talked about already was the chaotic birthday scene. And in that scene, that was one of the very few scenes that they decided to use a handheld camera for instead of just a regular dolly one. And that was kind of because of how hectic the scene was. They wanted to really capture like how off balance everything was, like how the moving around, everything's crazy, hectic, chaotic, as opposed to just, you know, a standing shot where it's steady. So I thought that was really interesting. And then also throughout the film with the shots, they create a lot of balance because they kind of balance based off of a vertical line. Sometimes he uses an imaginary one, sometimes he uses a real one, but like there'll be times where like they're out standing on the porch and one person's around the corner. So again, it creates a barrier between them. Or there's things where like they're on the couch and with the shot, you can tell like there's a lamp behind them to separate them. So that's constant throughout the movie. Sometimes it's more apparent, like I said, when you use actual lines, but other times it's just applied to show the distinction between the characters. Then the last thing I want to talk about for cameras was the use of montage. There was a really good montage early on when it shows, I think it was at the end of the first act when the characters are plotting against the maid. They're basically like getting the peaches together to give her the allergic reaction and convince the family that she actually has TB. But with that, like I said, he's very minimalist when it comes to the shots. Like I think it says something like he only used 8 shots to develop from when they first found out about the allergy to actually poisoning her with it. And Bong Joon-ho is very influenced by Alfred Hitchcock, who is very minimalist with his shots as well. And he even, in this sequence of montage, he included like a book on the back shelf that had a picture on it to pay homage. So I thought that was interesting. But all in all, I definitely thought the camera work was very pristine. Like I'm a person, before this class, I just thought of things as movies, but this is one that I can definitely tell is more of a film. Like I felt like I had to sit here and watch it and process it. It definitely was an artful expression. I enjoyed it.
All of these aspects definitely contributed to the overall themes of the film. Plenty of movies reveal deeper themes, and those can be shown through the psychological impacts of this film. So for the psychological impacts, this film definitely shows the extent to which families will go when they are in need, and it definitely expressed their desperation. The movie was perfectly titled and showed how people will literally reach onto other people in order to get by. And then the ending scenes represented many hopeful wishes of people living in poverty. You saw here in the movie how Kevin is hopeful that he could eventually buy the Park family's house so that his father, him, and his mother could be reunited again. And realistically, it would take him years past his lifetime to earn enough money to do so, which is a harsh reality that many people living in poverty have to face given their current circumstances.
Yeah, for me, I would say, like how Julian said earlier, this is a movie that you definitely have to watch more than one time because I watched, excuse me, I watched it before this class, and like I enjoyed it, but it didn't really like sit with me. But now that I've watched it again, like I started to see like more of the metaphors for like capitalism and class struggles and social comparisons and stuff like that. So I think it was just like, for me, I would say the psychological impact is it shows like how everybody's really human, like regardless of that they're Korean and we're American, like everybody faces the same struggles. We're all just here trying to survive at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like it's interesting how like a lot of times when we think of like social classes and things like that, we think of it in our own context in our own country. So it's really interesting to see it in a different language and see their demeanors and their different practices and their culture shine through, but still the same idea of like everyone's human, everyone has to make a living, and people will do it by any means necessary, whether they're in the US, whether they're in Korea, whether they're, it just doesn't matter. It's just as humans and as people who have needs and wants, that's something that's always going to be a theme.
Yeah, I agree with you, Siani, especially with the part about by any means necessary. It's really telling how the Kim family was able to kind of fake it to then make it up to the Park family's level, but the Park family was acting very, they could never live a day in the Kim family shoes. So, like that just attests to the fact that if you are determined to achieve something and society has the odds stacked against you, you can try all you want to make it there, but there's always going to be a reminder that it's a facade and that there's always going to be something blocking you or somebody who may not even know that you're putting on a show, but the way that they act around you will they'll tell you exactly how they feel about where you come from.
I feel like I'm repeating, so I'm trying to think of something on the spot, to be completely honest. And I would say, you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow, because everything will come full circle. With the one family, they lived a poor life and they tried to, you know what I mean? They tried to take the system, like they tried to manipulate the system so they could get what they want, and they took advantage of that family. It came back to bite them because it rained super hard one day and they had no house anymore. And then also their daughter passed or got killed. And the whole plan just went AWOL. Like they had this perfect plan of trying to live this good, lavish life of getting money and taking advantage of this family. Then it all came full circle and it ended up biting them in the butt. For the other side, for the other family, the Kim family, correct? The Kim family. Theirs is a little bit more unfortunate because they were just somewhat naive, but reap what you sow in the same way, as in the father was speaking down on the family, was like talking bad about the other father, saying that like he's working for him, and basically two-faced. The person he was in his face wasn't the same person he was when he was laid up with his wife, when he was like talking about how bad he smelled and like how basically all they're poor and he smells like people that take the subway. Like he felt higher up and he felt like he was basically knocking them down, and it all came full circle. Some people call it karma. Some people say you reap what you sow, but you saw what the ending outcome was at the end of the day.
Thank you everyone for that. And with that, that's a wrap.